I'd like to thank the Rural Independents for bringing this motion forward. Yes, we have spoken considerably about our energy crisis a lot in the last year, but it is important that we continue to do so because there are still a lot of people being left behind, and I think the future for a lot of people in our community is very uncertain as we continue through this energy crisis. So it is a very, very important issue to discuss. Minister, today I don't want to repeat previous contributions that I made to you. So today I just want to talk about what I see as the fundamental flaws in the government's approach to dealing with our energy crisis. I think the first one is that your government relies on the market not only to address the climate crisis that we're in, but also the energy crisis. And there are major issues with that because relying on the market, it is too slow, it is too expensive, and it will not result in a just transition. The market will essentially deal with people's needs on a monetary basis and will not take into account fairness and the basic needs of people to be supported and cared for. That is a job for government, and unfortunately your government is not taking that role seriously. You do rely on the market far too much as we try to deal with these different crises. The second is the government is waiting. It tends to wait for someone else to lead on this. So in this instance, when we're talking about things like the windfall tax or the decoupling of the energy market, you're waiting for Europe to lead. You wait for other countries to lead, and then Ireland follows. When it comes to this issue, Minister, we need Ireland and we need your government to be leaders, to be really out there fighting for the people that you represent. And I do understand that in some instances, you know, it does make more sense in a European-wide market that there are instances where you do need to do it in a collaborative fashion. But there are many things that you can do to lead on this issue, and you have not done so. I mean, the issue of the windfall tax, the Social Democrats have been raising that for, I think, a year now with the government. And yet it's still, you know, you waited for Europe to take the lead on it, and it will be months and months and months before that's actually resolved. Similarly with the market reform, Spain and Portugal, they took a lead. They represented their people because they understood that actually their two countries were not quite as integrated into the European energy market as others, similar to Ireland, in fact. And they went and they fought for their countries, to benefit their country. And unfortunately, we didn't see that with Ireland. We saw Ireland sitting back and waiting for Europe to take the lead. And then thirdly, you know, you deal with these things in a short-term fashion. You've outlined the one-off measures that you have had, that you've implemented. And the reality is this is not a one-off situation. Our energy crisis is with us this winter. It will be with us next winter. And many analysts believe it will be with us for many, many winters. And of course, that's also the case with climate change and the need for climate action. Your short-term measures are not targeted enough. They're not putting the money with the people that need it. And they are costly because ultimately it is a very costly exercise, but because you're being non-targeted with it, it means that government is spending a lot of money on these measures. And again, that is not money that is necessarily going to be around next year. We know our corporation taxes will not be replicated next year. There is risk that we are going into recession. So we are going into a very different economic environment next year. And again, we don't know what's going to be happening globally and with the war in Ukraine. So I think, you know, your one-off measures, whilst they have given your government a little bit of breathing space and may have assisted some people in the next, in the current months, I don't think it's going to give you much time extra. I think the irony as well is that the fact that we're having such a mild winter, that in itself has assisted you, and so therefore the impact that we're seeing from climate change is actually helping the government at the moment. But this is not something that you're going to be able to ignore for much longer. And what I want and what the Social Democrats want to see from you is we want to see you making homes resilient to global energy shocks, resilient to climate shocks. Okay, being able to actually rely on their own capacity to manage energy costs. Now, Minister, I know you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, we're putting all this money into retrofitting. The first thing I would say is, when you look at the actual amount of money that the government has put into the one-off measures, this budget, 2.4 billion. Can you imagine what kind of country, what kind of households, what kind of communities we would be living in if that 2.4 billion had been earmarked 3 years ago to assist houses build that level of resilience in, or even 2.5 years ago when your government came into power? It would have been incredible. You compare that with the 14 million that solar energy, the additional 14 million solar energy is getting. I think we're seeing that there is a huge disparity there. And actually the government is not, you are not putting enough focus on making homes resilient. And so I'm not just going to be critical of the government in this speech. I'm also going to offer some solutions, and I'm going to keep on banging on about this solution because I do really want the government to listen. Government's focus should not just be on retrofitting at the moment. Retrofitting it takes a long time and it is costly, and there is a much quicker way to help people and ensure that people get assistance in the medium term, and that is the implementation of solar and ensuring that as many households and businesses in this country that can have solar and generate their own energy, that is being made available to them. Solar is practical, it is possible, it is quick to do, and it will build that level of resilience that we need within our system and within our communities. And not only will it help with the climate crisis, not only will it reduce energy costs, it will also help with our grid, because obviously our grid is very vulnerable at the moment and is really incapable for the level of electricity demand that your government has overseen over the last number of years, right? So it is a win-win-win situation if we actually start putting solar on. The difficulty is, Minister, it will not be done if we rely on corporations or businesses to do this. This needs major state intervention. The government has to drive a wide-scale solar investment programme. That means the government needs to be the purchaser of solar panels. The government needs to be the one that goes to those companies in Europe, puts in large, multi-million contracts for solar panels, because that is the cheapest way to do it. It is also the quickest way. You would completely overcome any delays in the supply chain by doing it like that. And it would be, it has been, I've spoken to some experts in this, they would say it would save 50–60% of the costs, right? So that's how it should be done. Once the government has those solar panels, they need to be put up on people's homes fast. And that means going in and doing it estate by estate. Teams of solar experts going around and putting it on everybody's roofs. Okay, that could be done very quickly. It takes half a day or a day to put it on someone's roof. By doing that, you will save homes 40% of their energy costs. You will make them resilient. It will mean that you will not need to be putting 2.4 billion into people's pockets next year just to help them get over the winter. It is the most practical way to deal with this, and I would ask that the government take that solution, that suggestion on board and actually get this implemented. Thank you.